Welcome to the Soft Spot Podcast. This is my 100 video experiment with YouTube, seeing what can be accomplished if somebody me dedicates to making 100 YouTube videos. For the longest time, I've processed life through writing, through a lot of abstract metaphors, and right now I find myself in the midst of one that I've held to for a very long time, the metaphor of the mountain, the metaphor of the modern day hero's journey. I've found a few books like The Alchemist or The Butcher's Masquerade that talk about the hero's journey in a very abstract sense, in the idea that we're always searching for ourselves, and to find ourselves, we have to simply look inside ourselves and stop looking for ourselves out there in the distance, ourselves out there in some ethereal space where we can't find ourselves in a concrete way. And it sounds like great advice, but I've never found a way to actually translate that into my day-to-day. And the metaphor of the mountain is a beginning, middle, and an end. And it is a sense of accomplishment. And I think it's really important to continually translate lore of history, of culture, into the modern retelling of things. And so the modern day hero's journey for me is the idea of climbing a mountain and reaching a zenith moment of a huge goal that seemed insurmountable at once. And this poem starts off with a big proclamation. And the proclamation is to create space for yourself is to welcome another. The mountaintop is not lonely. You'll see that as soon as you start to climb. And so that's broken down into two parts. And the first part, I really think does translate in stories like The Alchemist, where creating space for yourself is the act of welcoming another, because to create space for yourself is the prerequisite for intimacy. As in, we can't have fulfilling connection if we don't know who we are. To go through the ethereal, or to go through the soul searching, the soul miasma of who am I, and to come back with concrete certainty of I am me, is a hard journey. I think it's what the 20s are best for. I think the 20s are best for just trying a bunch of stuff and figuring out who you are. And at the end of finding one's self, at the end of finding myself, I feel like, okay, now the goals, the journeys that I want to go on actually make a lot more sense. It's having a greater capacity for pain because I have a greater capacity for love as well. And that is a greater capacity for loving myself and enduring pain on my own behalf. Both of these capacities have gotten bigger because the mountains I want to climb have gotten bigger. And so to create space for myself is to welcome another. And I first found that to be true in high school when I didn't quite know the language for it, but I kept hitting this wall over and over again with my girlfriend where I didn't know what it was. And so I just threw a statement out there and I wasn't sure if it was true. And I was like, hey, I can only love you as much as you're willing to love yourself. And I've found it to be true time and time again throughout life. I cannot be in someone's life if they do not want me in there. I cannot be someone's happiness, fulfillment, or love for them. I cannot do that on their behalf. The same way that I can't climb the mountain for somebody else. I can only climb the mountain for myself. And that's why it's not just the proclamation to start the poem with, it's the prerequisite for starting the hero's journey. I think that is true for me. It's my prerequisite for believing in the journey that I'm on. And it's scary. It's terrifying to go after a big journey of affirming my own identity. Of, okay, I believe I am a person who can write. I am a person who can storytell. I'm a person who can take big, complex metaphors, break them down into my day-to-day. And so I am going for that. I'm trying to figure out how to translate that into my own life. And it started when I decided to get my CDL and become a commercial driver and drive big old semi trucks across the country. And I spent 5 years doing that, just living out of a semi truck. Had no apartment, no house. I would just Airbnb hotel and hop with friends whenever I wasn't on the truck. But for 5 years, that was my home base, was just the road. And living in that transient space felt like I was just constantly going in circles on the mountain. And I wasn't making progress because it wasn't affirming who I believed myself to be. And so now that I am not on the truck right now, and I am taking this year to full send my creative, to full send what I believe myself to be, it is feeling like progress, but it's feeling terrifying at the same time. And the concept I keep coming back to is like, okay, I can take a ship out of the harbor. I can get out into open sea, but now I'm still the one responsible for getting that ship back to a port, in the same way that now I'm responsible for turning this goal that I said I wanted to go after into something concrete and making evidence out of my journey. And so one of the things that I try to affirm myself with in this process is that I believe the mountaintop is not lonely. Even though I'm climbing my own mountain and I'm trying to go after my own goal, I don't think that this is a goal without people. I think everyone is also climbing their own mountains. And the act of climbing this, the act of going after something that I want, means that those people that I'm going to find around me are also going to be climbers. When I look to my left and my right and I see other mountains, because in crossing the country so many times, I never saw a mountain alone. I saw mountains in ranges. I saw mountains in clusters. And whenever I imagine myself on the top of a mountain, I'd be looking at other mountains. Whenever I climbed a mountain, I'd be looking at other mountains. And so there is no lonely peak. There are a bunch of opportunities for other climbers to meet me on my own path and in the midst of my own journey. And so that brings me to the tension of the story, of the modern hero's journey. The tension that I find is the culture war of today, is part of the culture war today, is the self-reliance trap, is the idea that I'm supposed to do this on my own and not ask for help and not allow anybody else into the journey and not be vulnerable with the progress of my journey or just the direction or desires that I am having inside the journey. And so I had this line in the poem where it's like, when they pour water on my naked body, I'll have asked for help. And I had the beautiful fortune of going to a Japanese bathhouse and being naked in a public-esque space and just hit with the stark reality that there's nothing to hide behind when it's just me, myself, and I. And there's no way that I can orchestrate who I am as a naked person to try to like mask, to try to present myself as something that I'm not. And so asking for help is that same confrontation with an absolute reality that I cannot do something on my own. Asking for help is the admission of I can't do it. And that's okay. It's part of the journey. Even the road that I walk on was paved for someone, by someone else. Even the car that I drive, the scooter that I drive, was made by somebody else. There's no version of my journey in which the hands of another person have not contributed to it. And you don't get to have day-to-day life without surrendering the backpack of shame, surrendering the backpack of fear, of surrendering the backpack of insecurity. You don't even get to get up the mountain without letting go of that backpack. And so that's the other part. That's like the villain in this poem, is the rancid backpack, the backpack full of the stuff that's too heavy to carry. If you've ever been out for a day and walking around a city, you might start the day and think your backpack's not that heavy, but after 2, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, your shoulders are tired, your feet are hurting, your calves are burning, and that backpack is like way too heavy to continually lug throughout the day. And fear and shame and insecurity are those things that become too heavy to actually make it to the mountaintop with. And it's because those things demand that you abandon yourself on your own journey. I'm really struggling to land this plane right now. I think for me, I can't take, okay, I can work through this. I can figure this out. It's almost there. It's almost there. For me, I can't take the idea of a goal and remove it from the context of the life I'm going to live and remove it from the rest of my life, because a goal is only one moment. A goal is only one thing. And there's too many things around it that are still important. Because even if that goal is the most insane big goal possibly imaginable, I still want to have people to share it with. And I find that happiness is the realest when it's shared. Happiness is the realest when there are people that saw the whole journey. And so self-reliance is like a unicorn's blood. And I think of this like Harry Potter moment where the kids go into the forest and they see Voldemort eating a unicorn and drinking its blood. And they ask, what was he doing? And Hagrid, I believe it was Hagrid, he says, unicorn's blood will sustain you, even if you're on the verge of death. But it will be a half-life. It'll be an incomplete life. It'll be a broken life. Maybe those are the words. Something like that. And I find a life with only me, myself, and I is unicorn's blood. It's a half-life. It's a broken life. It's an incomplete life. And there's no purpose of a journey up a big mountain without those around me being present too. Yeah, that's where I'm going to land this. Like, subscribe, comment, engage. This is the soft spot. This is a place where I am processing openly the things that I've already written about in my life. The actual poem will be in the description of this video. If you'd like to read it, go for it.